Hey guys, today's video is how to do a long tail tubular cast on. This is how to do it for right-handed people, but I'll also make a video for lefties because there's nothing more frustrating than being a left-handed knitter, trying to learn a new technique and having to learn it backwards. I speak from experience. Anyway, let's get started. So I've got just some scrap yarn here and a needle in the appropriate size. So if you've never done a long tail cast on at all, I might recommend mastering that before you go to the tubular. The tubular is totally tubular, sorry. It's a super flexible cast on. It's actually pretty easy to do once you get the hang of balancing the thread and everything. It's just a little complicated if you're new to knitting. So I would say this is more of like an intermediate level cast on. It is great for things like bottom-up sweaters, particularly those with a ribbed edge, because you can cast on, switch alternating between knit and purl stitches right from your cast on, so it's almost invisible where your cast on starts. You don't have like a lumpy row of teardrops at the bottom of your sweater that aren't stretchy, and then it makes your butt look big because your sweater's like sucking in around your butt and not stretching nicely like other sweaters. I digress. The long tail tubular cast on is also great for like toe up socks when you want that stretchy top. Anyway, I'll let you decide where you want to use this. So just like the other long tail, whoops, see, I'm using it left-handed, haha. So much like other long tail cast-ons, you need a long tail. I have enough yarn here for about 10 or 12 stitches with a little extra. And so just like you would hold your yarn for any other long tail cast on, your hand's in the shape of an L with the tail over the thumb and the ball of yarn over your pointer finger, and both strings held in the 3 fingers of your hand. So L for long tail, the other strings being held in those 3 fingers. All right, so when you do a normal, traditional, plain old long tail cast on, you would go this way from the palm of your hand outward. But in a tubular, you go backwards, so from out to in, like so. And then you twist. So let me show you that again. Just getting a little excited. Out to in, twist. Twist like that. So you have a little fishy on your yarn, and that first thing right there, some people like to tie a slip knot here. I don't. I don't know if I'm just anal or what, but that first little fishy forms a knit stitch. And so then to cast on a purl stitch, which should be next if you're hoping to then do a knit 1, purl 1 rib. So you've got your knit 1. So let me show you how to cast on a purl. You go over the top string, under the bottom string, and then back under the top. And there, see how there's a little bump right there for your purl? So let's show that again. So we've already got our fishy knit stitch, and to create a purl we go over the top, under the bottom, and under the whole mess. So for the next one, for which needs to be a knit stitch, we will go under the bottom, over the top, and under the bottom again. So that last move on both the knit and purl stitch is going under the whole mess. So let's do one more knit. Let me get combobulated. So under the bottom, over the top, and under the whole thing for the knit. So we've got knit, purl bump, knit. So some of these tutorials that I've seen for this cast on and various different methods of the tubular cast on have been bananas fast. I am not really a fast knitter. I don't knit continental style. I like to throw my yarn, and I also knit right and left-handed, so I'm totally bananas all over the place. But in this case, watching a video tutorial for this cast on that you might be new to, you're in luck, because I'm not going to go a kerjillion miles an hour. No offense to anybody though, because those are the videos that taught me how to do this myself. I digress. Alright, so now we're on a purl stitch. So I'll narrate as I go. So purl stitch, over the top, under the bottom, under the whole thing. Alright, knit stitch, under the bottom, over the top, and under. Purl stitch, over the top, under the bottom, under the whole thing. Knit stitch, under the bottom, over the top, under the whole thing. Alright, so we've got 2, 4, 6, 7, and we want an even number of stitches since this is going to be knit 1, purl 1. And I most often use this cast on, if you couldn't guess, based on me talking about my butt for a minute there. I most use this cast on for bottom-up sweaters. And so since that'll be joining your cast on, that'll involve joining your cast on into the round, you're going to want an even number of stitches so that your knit and purl motif repeats perfectly. So what was I at? 2, 4, 6, 7. So purl, over, under, under. So that's 8. Knit, under, over, under. 9. Purl, over, under, under. So there's 10. And if I did this kind of tight from demoing. So all these little lumps should always stay on the same side, by the way, especially if you're joining into a circle. It's important not to get your stitches twisted. Also, speaking of not getting your stitches twisted and casting on for a sweater, if you're new to this cast on, you're going to want to use straight needles for it, because that helps just keep your stitches straight. I did a couple practice rounds of the tubular cast on just plain old straight needles like this to learn it, and then just dove in and tried it on double pointed needles, and that was fine. And then I did it on circulars, and that was also fine. Just keep an eye on where your stitches are, where that ridge is lining up. So to knit, if you're on a straight needle like this, you're going to need to flip your work, of course. And since this is such a loose cast on, if you let go and your yarn isn't as felty as this like roving style, I guess I would call it, yarn, it might slip all over the place. So just I think it's useful to just keep that tail pinched in the tip, leaving the shorter tail here. Flip it like a page in a book. Then, grab your yarn and you are ready to start knitting. So the last stitch we did on the cast on was a purl. So the first stitch we're working is a knit. And this is the last weird thing about a tubular cast on, or maybe new concept in a tubular cast on, I could say, is you work a knit stitch into the back because of the way your stitch is going to be angled for this very first row of the tubular working the tubular cast on. So we're going to knit that first stitch into the back, and then bring your yarn to the front and slip the next stitch purlwise, but with the yarn in the front. So slip purlwise, bring the yarn to the back, knit in the back loop, knit, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit in the back loop. Yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit one stitch through the back loop, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit through the back loop, and we are on the last stitch, which is a purl, so yarn to the front and slip purlwise. This table is super odd level, so I have to worry about my needles rolling away all the time. Alright, so that's one row. You're not done yet. There's one more row of the tubular cast on. which is worked the same as the row we just knit, or worked I should say, except now your knit stitches are angled the right way so you can knit normally and not have to knit into that back loop. So this first one was a purl, so now we flipped our work. Oh geez, left-handed again, sorry guys. Yep, that makes more sense. So knit normally, because we're all angled the correct way. Knit one, yarn to the front, yikes. Knit one, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit one normally, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit one, yarn to the front, purl, slip, yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, and now you have your tubular cast on foundation. So if you're doing, this cast on's great for a knit one, purl one, and it works just fine for a knit two, purl two. I just love it for the knit one, purl one because it's practically seamless. So then once you've done those 2 rows, you just straight up knit one, purl one across. And let me work this row so you can see what happens and why they call it a tubular cast on. Not because it's totally tubular, as in the slang version of tubular. Sorry, thinking and knitting and talking isn't always the most elegant thing in the world. So knit one, purl one, if you didn't notice. So the tubular name comes because when you did those 2 rows of slipping purlwise, you created just a little bit of pull on the edge of your garment, or just cast on swatch in this case, and that makes it, that edge, curl up just a little bit, making sort of a tube shape for your edge. And the big reason to do a tubular cast on, other than it being so pretty, is that it is really stretchy.